And welcome to the Knowing Show. I am your host, Christene Marie. Y'all, happy day 138th of the year. We are joining us together every single morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific. And we gather for the purpose of cultivating the human intelligence. And what this means, and the reason why we even use this phrase, is because we are in an age where everyone is obsessed with the artificial intelligence, the cultivation of that, the implementation in our business, in our daily lives. More and more people are resorting to companions on the internet who are AI enabled rather than looking horizontally to the physical world around them for companionship. And so, as such, we are cultivating with intention the very things that make us different from these robots, because I have a suspicion that if we were really able to find what we were looking for around us, rather than resorting to the internet, we would have much more meaningful connections. So in terms of that intelligence that we are cultivating the intellectual intelligence, that which we've been cultivating since pre-K, what we were all in school for, and emotional intelligence, that really is the foundation and fabric woven into what makes relationships successful or not. Spiritual intelligence, effectively our ability to see the world through God's eyes, to hear from God, to have any kind of spiritual revelation or understanding. And then physical intelligence. There's a book called The Body Keeps a Score by Bessel van der Kolk, where this concept was really introduced to me for the first time. Our body stores data it remembers. And so we cannot live disassociated from it nor suppressing it, but really coming to understand and acting as though every single one of these intelligences has data to offer us. I like to think of each intelligence as akin to our board of directors. And so I am so thrilled for you to join us today. We are going through this morning, as we do every morning, a Course in Miracles. This is just a workbook where we go through a daily lesson and chat about it. And then we also will go live most afternoon weekdays. So I'm so grateful for you joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and just begin with a quick review of some of the previous lessons leading up to today's lesson in A Course in Miracles. Lesson 121, forgiveness is the key to happiness. Lesson 122, forgiveness offers everything I want. Lesson 123, I thank my Father for his gifts to me. Lesson 124, let me remember I am one with God. Lesson 125, in quiet I receive God's word today. Lesson 126, all that I give is given to myself. Lesson 127, there is no love but God's. Lesson 128, the world I see holds nothing that I want. Lesson 129, beyond this world, there is a world I want. Lesson 130, it is impossible to see two worlds. Lesson 131, no one can fail who seeks to reach the truth. Lesson 132, I loose the world from all I thought it was. Lesson 133, I will not value what is valueless. Lesson 134, let me perceive forgiveness as it is. Lesson 135, if I defend myself, I am attacked. Lesson 136, sickness is a defense against the truth. Lesson 137, when I am healed, I am not healed alone. Lesson 138, today's lesson. Heaven is the decision I must make. In this world, heaven is a choice, because here we believe there are alternatives to choose between. We think that all things have an opposite, and what we want, we choose. If heaven exists, there must be a hell as well, for contradiction is the way we make what we perceive and what we think is real. Creation knows no opposites, but here is opposition part of being real. It is the strange perception that the truth that makes the choice of heaven seem to be the same as the relinquishment of hell. It really is not thus. Yet what is true in God's creation cannot enter here until it is reflected in some form the world can understand. Truth cannot come where it could be only perceived with fear. For this would be the error truth can be brought to illusions. Opposition makes the truth unwelcome and it cannot come. Choice is the obvious escape from what appears as opposites. Decision lets one of conflicting goals become the aim of effort and expenditure of time. Without decision, time is but a waste and effort dissipated. It is spent for nothing in return, and time goes by without results. There is no sense of gain, for nothing is accomplished, nothing learned. You need to be reminded that you think 1,000 choices are confronting you when there really is only one to make. And even this but seems to be a choice. Do not confuse yourself with all the doubts that myriad decisions would induce. You make but one, and when that one is made, you will perceive it was no choice at all. For truth is true, and nothing else is true. There is no opposite to choose instead. There is no contradiction to the truth. Choosing depends on learning, and the truth cannot be learned, but only recognized. In recognition, its acceptance lies, and as it is accepted, it is known. But knowledge is beyond the goals we seek to teach within the framework of this course. Ours are teaching goals to be attained through learning how to reach them, what they are and what they offer you. Decisions are the outcome of your hearing, for they rest on what you have accepted as the truth of what you are and what your needs must be. In this insanely complicated world, heaven appears to take the form of choice rather than merely being what it is. Of all the choices you have tried to make, this is the simplest, most definitive, and prototype of all the rest, the one which settles all decisions. If you could decide the rest, this one remains unsolved. And when you solve this one, the others are resolved with it. For all decisions but conceal this one by taking different forms. Here is the final and the only truth, or choice in which truth accepted or denied. So we begin today considering the choice that time was made to help us make. Such is its holy purpose, now transformed from the intent you gave it, that it be a means for demonstrating hell is real, hope changes to despair, and life itself must, in the end, be overcome by death. In death alone are opposites resolved, for ending opposition is to die. And thus salvation must be seen as death, for life is seen as conflict. To resolve the conflict is to end your life as well. Wow. These mad beliefs can gain unconscious hold of its great intensity and grip the mind with terror and anxiety so strong that it will not relinquish its ideas about its own protection. It must be saved from salvation, threatened to be safe, and magically armored against truth. And these decisions are made unaware to keep them safely undisturbed, apart from question and from reason and from doubt. Heaven is chosen consciously. The choice cannot be made until alternatives are accurately seen and understood. All that is veiled in shadows must be raised to understanding, to be judged, this time with heaven's help. And all mistakes in judgment that the mind had made before are open to correction, and the truth dismisses them as causeless. Now they are without effects. They cannot be concealed because their nothingness is recognized. The conscious choice of heaven is as sure as the ending of the fear of hell when it is raised from its protective shield of unawareness and is brought to light. Who can decide between the clearly seen and the unrecognized? Yet who can fail to make a choice between alternatives when only one is seen as valuable and the other as a wholly worthless thing, a but imagined source of guilt and pain? Who hesitates to make a choice like this? And shall we hesitate to choose today? We make the choice for heaven as we wake and spend 5 minutes making sure that we have made the one decision that is sane. We recognize we make a conscious choice between what has existence and what has nothing but an appearance of the truth. Its pseudo-being, brought to what is real, is flimsy and transparent in the light. It holds no terror now, for what was made enormous, vengeful, pitiless with hate, demands obscurity for fear to be invested there. Now it is recognized as but a foolish, trivial mistake. Before we close our eyes and sleep tonight, we reaffirm the choice that we have made each hour in between. And now we give that last 5 minutes of our waking day to the decision with which we awoke. As every hour passed, we have declared our choice again in a brief, quiet time devoted to maintaining sanity. And finally, we close the day with this, acknowledging we chose what we want. Heaven is the decision I must make. I make it now and will not change my mind because it is the only thing I want. I want to return to one of the earlier sentiments that she makes. We talk about the power of choice. We talk about how we have the opportunity to choose our response, our perspective, the way in which we show up, our reactions, our thoughts, our emotions. Like, we've got all of the choice and all of the power. Yet what she's really leaning into here, and this is where juxtaposition lies, because we've been talking over the last week leading up to today's lesson around how there really are kind of like two worlds, two realities. There's the physical reality, which inevitably ends in death, or there is that eternal perspective, which is the cultivation of our inner world, taking on the lens of God. And I believe that our soul and our spirit lives on, and it has eternal value. I do not know how it works whatsoever, but I do have that belief. I believe I'm going to see my brother-in-law again. I believe I'm going to see my Uncle Tim and my Aunt Nancy and obviously grandparents and those who have gone before us. I do believe. I don't know how it works, but I do believe that, and I have faith in that this isn't the end. And so because of that, we can either take the perspective of placing all of our value, our worth, our identity in the physical, looking in the mirror and saying, oh, that's who I am, versus looking inward and saying, oh, that's who I am. I am not of the flesh and bones, and neither are you, and our bodies are the vessel and the conduit through which we get to exist in this present world. And what a blessing. And we should take care of our physical body and recognize that it is just such an incredible I like that concept of vessel, because vessel means it's like housing something, but it's also a conduit for something. And so this vessel in which we find ourselves is the conduit of our mission and our purpose, but it's also housing really that sacred spirit that is the pathway to God, and our soul, which is eternal and long lasting. So us taking care of this physical body, us engaging in this physical world with intention, being fully awake, recognizing that even though I am here right now, this is of great importance, there is something of even greater importance. So if my value system and my worth and my identity is tied to this physical world, and I'm avoiding and even blind to any type of realization that there's something greater and even more meaningful than right here, right now, I'm going to be missing out on the eternal, on that which is of the greatest value. And so what she's talking about here is that effectively, given the hierarchy of truth, that eternal value system is far greater. It almost makes all the other choices here and now in this physical world, man, it makes it so small. It reduces in size when we look around us and we feel overwhelmed, when we feel anxious, when we feel depressed or discouraged, angry, vengeful. Man, when we take that outside third-party perspective, that is the view of God's, it's all of a sudden way put into perspective and way smaller than we thought it was. So given that context, I want to reread this sentiment. You need to be reminded that you think 1,000 choices are confronting you when there is really only one to make. And even this, but seems to be a choice. Do not confuse yourself with all the doubts and the myriad decisions would induce. You make but one. And when the one is made, you will perceive it was no choice at all, for truth is true and nothing else is true. There is no opposite to choose instead. There is no contradiction to the truth. And then jumping down. Decisions are the outcome of your learning, for they rest on what you have accepted as the truth of what you are and what your needs must be. Y'all, if we are operating from this God-like perspective, which we get the opportunity to say, God, give me your eyes, give me your vision of the world. I want to understand. I want to walk according to the vision and pathway that is far greater than this physical world. And there really is something about donning the lens of God so that we see people through the lens of love rather than through the lens of fear, which is so powered by the physical world. And that's the thing. We talk about this on the show a lot. Who has the microphone in your mind? Who has the leading voice, the leading narrative over who you are? It says, decisions are the outcome of your learning, for they rest on what you have accepted as a truth of what you are and what your needs must be. So who do we believe we are? Whose do we believe we are? And why do we believe we are? Answering those three questions, who we are, whose we are, and why we are, is so important because it's going to dictate the way that we show up in this physical world. And so if my understanding of there being contradictions to the truth, and I'm constantly in this kind of like fight or flight mode of trying to prove the truth, rather than just kind of letting go and be like, oh, that's not even worth getting upset over because the truth is so powerful, so potent. That really is the only thing that is the ultimate. If we look at the hierarchy of real and reality, the capital T truth that is associated with the view and heart of God and what he deems as true is so far greater than the little combative truths, lowercase t's in this world, that we don't need to get our panties in a wad over it. And our nervous system, here's the thing that's so interesting. If we are getting really concerned over fighting back and contending with everything that is not in alignment with that capital T truth, our nervous system actually goes into dysregulation. And now we start operating out of fear. Because when our nervous system gets activated, we start going into survival mode. And I call it the 4 F's: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, starts activating. And now we fundamentally cannot operate from that capital T truth from the lens of God if our nervous system is actually dysregulated and activated. And now we're operating out of fear. Now we're actually operating at the same level of this physical world. Because if we wanted to have that eternal view and that eternal perspective and be operating from that hierarchy, pinnacle of the pyramid in terms of the hierarchical values and prioritization and importance, y'all, I really do not believe that we can really make the greatest impact that we could if we were operating from a place of love. So if we are taking time to really contend over these things that we know in our hearts are not in alignment with that hierarchical structure of capital T truth versus, the subjective truth of the lateral and horizontal scape, man, we're going to really not be able to operate in love. So the more defensive we get, the more protective we get, the more it's kind of like, we talked about this the other day, an ironclad gate starts to close and our nervous system actually begins to activate and shut down. And then we get stressful and anxious and we get, a whole myriad of things. But now we start changing the microphone to now be one of fear rather than one of love. So this element of, I think that this is really, really important. This ability to recognize that we can rest even if there's the whole world around us that's operating in a completely different value system than maybe we believe is true, than God's value system. We can rest in that because it is our choice. It is our decision. Heaven is the decision I must make. That's the lesson for today. We get to choose that. And in that choosing, it impacts everyone around us because, man, it's like a lightning bolt from heaven coming through us and then permeating through the rest of the world around us. When we really are looking at the world through the lens of God, it changes the entire environment in which we find ourselves in. That's the power of looking through the world through the lens of God's heart. I'm just jumping here in the chat. Good morning, everyone. I'm so glad to see you all. Steve says Monday, not so fun day. The gray tone, good morning. Brian, I'm so glad to see you. It's been so long. Steve says it's after 8 a.m. here in Chicagoland. Oh man, one of my friends works out there. I've never been, but American Redneck, good morning. I'm glad to see you. Goose Hunter, good morning. Thank you for joining. Just scrolling down. Stephen, good morning. He says, what I love about this Course in Miracles is that it does not need interpretation. I love that. Handy Andy, good morning. Parita, good morning. Thank you so much for joining. Leroy, good morning. Rob Vine, Hook. I always smile when I see your name. Terry Scott, good morning. Thank you so much for joining. Bill D, good morning, Five Monkeys. Sarah, good morning, Todd Marshall. Scrolling down. David, good morning. Liam. Braid, good morning. Thank you for joining. Fran Coy, good morning. Yadoy, good morning. Tekka, good morning. Good to see you. Alien Guy, Soul, good morning. Y'all, I'm sorry I need to cut this morning off short. I actually have a super big presentation that I'm about to go give to a roofing company. So I need to jump off and finish preparing for that. But thank you all so much for joining. I hope to be on today in the afternoon, but I don't know how long this, I have a very long presentation for them. This is like, I guess, 6 weeks of looking under the hood of their business and really going to town on data and surveys and talking with stakeholders and all that good stuff. So it's going to be a long day. I hope, crossing my fingers, to be on at 6 p.m. Eastern tonight. So I will confirm that probably around 2 p.m. Eastern, and I'll schedule out the show if I'm able to go live then. But I will definitely see you all tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. Y'all, I hope that we all remember we get the power to choose who's gonna be the voice in our ear, you know? And is it gonna be the voice of ultimate truth, or one that's subjective and variable to change, one that's inconsistent and unreliable?